Welcome to Dogs versus All Y'all, a weekly college football podcast where we discuss not only my favorite team, the Georgia Bulldogs, but we talk all things college football, hence all y'all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and look us up on Instagram at Suplex Dinner Club. And go Dogs. Listeners, welcome back to another episode of Dogs versus All Y'all, a college football podcast where we don't just talk about the two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. We talk about all things college football, hence all y'all. Once a month, we do our College Football Roundtable where I invite a couple of my buddies who are college football fans, and we just talk about a couple of the little hot topics going on. And once the season cracks off, that's when we're going to start coming with the predictions and all that good stuff. So I'm first and foremost, I want to thank both of you guys for coming. It's definitely a pleasure knowing you guys personally, but also being able to podcast with y'all. So I'm going to introduce you. And I also, as always, have a question for you with your introduction. So first, this is a two-time Suplex Dinner Club guest. This gentleman is on the West Coast, but he is representing those damn War Eagles or War Damn Eagle. It's the homie Zach. What's happening, Zach? How you living?
Man, living the dream, brother. Can't complain. I appreciate you having me back.
Congratulations on the recent wedding, by the way.
Appreciate that.
Beautiful pictures, you and your beautiful wife. My question to you, Zach, is very simple one. I wouldn't say it's simple, but kind of. Who is the greatest player in Auburn history?
Yeah, there's a couple options, right?
Definitely.
But I feel like if, you can say two names, and I'd be okay with both those names. But I'm a little old school at heart. I'm going to go with Bo. I think that he's probably the best player we've ever seen in football, period. So and the fact that he came out of my school is very nice. I appreciate that. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Bo Jackson for sure.
I like that. One of the greatest athletes of our time growing up. We're very fortunate to have been able to see him dominate on two eras. I really wish he would have been able to do the same thing in the NFL, but that injury, man.
Yeah, it hurt.
Yeah. And obviously, I guess the other option would be Cam, I would imagine.
Oh, no, I was going to go with Sammy Coates, but no, I'm going. It was Cam Newton. It was Cam Newton. It was absolutely Cam Newton.
Okay, all right. I was just checking. I was like, oh, whoa.
You want to throw a name out there every once in a while. People are just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Right.
Definitely Cam Newton and Bo Jackson for sure.
All right, cool. Well, welcome again to the podcast, brother.
Appreciate it.
The other panelist, he is 1/4 of the All Marks Pod. He is representing those Trojans of Southern California.
Yes, sir.
It's the homie Brad. What's happening?
Sir. Oh, man, I'm feeling good. Honored to be on today. I love college football, so I'm honored. Right. I'm going to give you my government. It's Brad.
Okay.
Brad Young. You can find me on Facebook, Bradley Young Jr. I am there. And when the season gets started, you already know we talking all college football, all week round, Saturdays, Sundays. A little NFL gonna get blended in on there, and a little fantasy football talk gonna get blended in on there too. So,
okay. See, both of y'all are definitely gonna be able to connect on the fantasy football
for sure.
All right, And Brad, question for you. Who is the greatest player? You got a long list, by the way. Who is the greatest player in USC history?
Man, listen, so, before I get started on that, and I don't want to take up too much time, just want to shout a few people out. Want to shout out Troy Polamalu, Ronnie Lott, O.J. Simpson, Junior Seau, Carson Palmer, Keyshawn Johnson, Lynn Swan,
showing off now.
Marcus Allen, Anthony Munoz, Charles White, Willie McGinnis, Chris Claiborne, Rodney Peete, Clay Matthews, Malcolm Smith, the Super Bowl MVP. But for my greatest Trojan of all time, and it's going to be recency bias, I got to go with Reggie Bush. Mr.
Okay.
Excitement. Man, it wasn't nothing like him. He was a pleasure to watch. For me, he was kind of the precursor to what we see today as far as how the backs are being used in the NFL, which, by the way, I think they are being undervalued. And if college football had a fantasy, he would have been automatic points, reception, rushing yards, all of that. So I got to go with Reggie Bush, man. I got to go with Reggie Bush. Oh, and Adoree Jackson. Shout out to Adoree Jackson.
Yeah, shout out to him. He's Adoree is actually from my family's area of East St. Louis and that area.
That's where I got the two from. So I got just
Shout out to both of those. Reggie was always a highlight, man. It was crazy how he actually graduated the same year I did, and which is '03. And I remember, because being a football player and you have egos, once you're in newspapers and preseason stuff, you're like, okay, what coaches are actually paying attention to you?
right.
And I remember I was always obsessed with it, more so out of ego or anything. And I remember looking at recruiting magazines and seeing guys, and I was like, who is this Reggie Bush dude? And then once I saw him, I was like, oh, yeah, it's levels to this shit, man.
You want to hear a funny story? So
Yeah,
my aunt and uncles are pastors. My aunt married, her husband name is Reggie Bush. So Fox was doing this show where you swap with the celebrity you have the same name as. And they kept calling my uncle like, yeah, we want you to do this show with Reggie Bush. And my uncle kept hanging up on him like somebody's playing on my phone, right? But it turns out it was a legit thing, and they were trying to get him in contact with Reggie Bush so they could do a household swap with him and Reggie Bush. That's a true story.
That's crazy. That's
Pretty
crazy.
interesting. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for joining me. For the panel listeners, once again, we do this once a month. So if you haven't already, follow the brand at Suplex Dinner Club. That's home of two podcast projects that I'm working on, one being Dogs versus All Y'all. And on Wednesdays, it's more casual conversations with some very interesting people that I've met in hospitality. That podcast is called the Life and Times Podcast. So let's go ahead and get into it, gentlemen. Oh, my answer, greatest player.
There we go.
It's got to be Herschel. It's got to be Herschel.
I was like, if it's not all running backs across the board, I think we have a problem.
It's got to be Herschel. Herschel's the greatest Georgia player, but my personal favorite to watch was definitely Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was just like, it was like, what the hell is this human being? Like, he's 6'2", 230, and pulling away from everybody. So
leaping over people.
Yeah, he was the man. So shout out to him. All right, gentlemen, we're going to get into it. First topic of tonight is College Game Day washed? Now, for listeners, College Game Day is a staple for us college football fans. It's been around, surprisingly, since 1987 on ESPN. It's gotten a number of hosts, it's had a number of traditions here and there. And as years has gone by, it has evolved into essentially it feels like a concert. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a live taping, but it's definitely an experience. I would highly recommend any college football fan to at least go once. Because the whole Lee Corso picking a mascot head, that's an experience. Just having a bands out there, depending on who's playing. And sometimes having the rival coaches or the actual coach coming out there. I know Kirby came out a couple times in Athens. That was fun. It was a huge experience. In fact, for any of my listeners that have went to a HBCU, I would compare it to like a homecoming at a HBCU. that kind of magnitude where people are barbecuing around. You have millions of families around. You can't park anywhere. You got to get there early if you want to have fun. So, have you guys ever been to a college game day experience?
I have not.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Zach, you have? Okay.
I was able to go down in Gainesville when they did it down in Florida one year. That was a blast. So
nice.
Yeah, it's like you said, man. It's an experience. It really is. It's like you said, man. It's like going to a show.
Yeah,
like it's like
for
you're
sure.
at a concert for sure. It's a blast. It's really fun.
Yeah, but back to college game day though. With recent news of hosts moving on to other brands, some hosts being let go. My guy David Pollock is one of those people who got let go out of nowhere, honestly, but it is what it is.
That was really shocking.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was wild. Yeah.
And they've added on people. One we can talk about later, which would be Pat McAfee, but it's a lot of tension, I would say, amongst the fan bases of college football in general. And they're saying you're bringing on the wrong people, you're letting go of the wrong people, and it's a whole lot of complaining surrounding not just ESPN, but more specifically to this podcast, College Game Day. So, my question to you guys, and I'm going to start with you, Zach, is College Game Day wash, bro?
I think it's one of those things where I still get so excited for it on Saturday mornings. Like, it's one of those things that has been a part of the ritual for 20 years. So it's like, it wouldn't be the same if College Game Day wasn't around, right? I don't think that college football will still have that kind of feel to it, for me, at least.
Right.
Is it washed? In a sense, yes. But also it's one of those shows where it's just like, no matter how bad it gets, I'm tuning in, I've been watching Lee Corso be racist on TV for 25 years. You know what I mean? So like, I can't stop. I can't stop now. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna stop now. But I think Kurt being on there, that really helped. I love the addition of Pat. I guess we'll talk about that later. I think he brings just a whole other aspect of football to that team. Desmond's amazing. I think he's got one of the best football minds ever. Even though he's a Michigan guy, like I think he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? So I still very much enjoy the show. I'm still going to tune in regardless of all the hate and all that. It's just a part of my Saturday mornings. That's when I get my coffee, sit in my recliner, and turn the TV on. So
hell yeah, and it's super early for you on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's like 7 a.m. Yeah. So, but that's even better. You know what I mean? That's even better because my old ass is waking up at 6 o'clock every morning now. So it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah.
Brad, what about you, man?
Well, I guess I'm going to say it remains to be seen how this new group of broadcasters is going to work. I wouldn't say it washed because just like Zach, I still enjoy watching College Game Day. I'm from the Midwest originally. I'm from Michigan. So college football is fall for us. It's our favorite time of the year in the Midwest. So we know when it's fall, it's college football game day. We love the fanfare. I love the little player pieces they do each week. Like they find something interesting about some of the top players and some of the unknown players who they put on your radar for the season. And they do player profiles and things of that nature. And you get to lock in on some of these kids and some of these future superstars and get to see what drives them and find out some fun qualities. And it adds a humanistic aspect to some of the bigger players in the country. And again, with Desmond Howard, outside of his actual predictions, I'm with Zach on that too. He's one of the greatest minds when it comes to statistics and breaking down plays, and that's where we're going to miss Pollock at too, because Pollock was amazing at breaking down plays. And as a guy who loves defense and as a former defender, Pollock really brought it home. So to say it's washed, I wouldn't say it's totally washed, but we're going to see how this new cast works out. We're totally going to miss David Pollock. He was a staple. He was a great fit, and still kind of don't understand why he was let go of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he posted something online. It was very classy response of about thanking ESPN for that opportunity because, as you guys know, y'all are familiar. You know, he got hurt very early in his NFL career, and his career was over because of a spinal injury. So, never had any broadcasting experience. They gave him that opportunity, and he capitalized off of it for damn near a decade. So, you know, he was very thankful for that.
I mean, it's not going to be the last time we see him either.
No.
If somebody doesn't pick him up, that'd be mind-blowing. You know what I mean? Just the credentials that he has because of Gameday can allow him to go anywhere. Like Tebow, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't have any broadcasting experience either, but he's slowly becoming, you know, on SEC Network every morning. You're like, okay,
he's a staple.
He's getting there. You know what I mean? Like, he's really coming into his own with it broadcasting. So I think David Pollock's got a job anywhere that he wants. He's going to sit back and be like, y'all come to me. So.
Definitely. So, speaking of he's got a job anywhere and everywhere, we got to talk about Pat McAfee. I've noticed this more and more online with college football fans, and they're mostly older than us, but they hate Pat McAfee. And it's so weird to me. Like, these fans hate Pat McAfee. While I'm on the complete opposite. I love the guy. I love what he brings. I mean, all three of us are not only college football fans, but we're professional wrestling fans. And I'll be honest, some of the most entertaining commentary that I had as a professional wrestling fan past couple years was Pat McAfee on SmackDown. It was fun. It was energetic. It was something new.
Yeah.
But with college football, it seems like a perfect fit. And to be low-key, I do think they're ushering him in and getting Coach Corso out of there as being that figurehead. So I think right now the old guard of college football fans are kind of like resistant to that change. But I love Pat McAfee. So, Brad, what are your thoughts on Pat McAfee? Are you a fan of him? Are you a fan of what he's doing?
So you actually took my complete thought, and it's in my notes. I do love Pat McAfee in the professional wrestling space, from in the ring into commentary. And I feel like he adds a more younger, vibrant energy. And like you said, everyone notices Corso clock is ticking. And it is what it is. It is what it is. He served the program well for his time there, but, you know, I see what they're trying to do with Pat McAfee. I like it. He's more inclusive. He's a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to different things in pop culture and different culture. It seems like more people will be more comfortable speaking to him as well. And he can liven up a conversation. So I like Pat McAfee. I have no problem with him. It was a great addition. I'm assuming once they heard him on WWE SmackDown, maybe that helped with him getting the job a little bit, plus his pod. So, I mean, I'm with it. I like Pat McAfee on College Gameday.
Yeah, I love his show. His daily show is fucking content gold. You know, to be able to get Aaron Rodgers in there, and Aaron Rodgers holds no punches.
Right.
Like he literally he's a straight shooter on that podcast. He feels so comfortable, and seeing somebody like Vince McMahon. I don't know if you watched it, but Vince was on there, and Vince was open. He was loose. It was probably the most normal I've ever seen of Vince McMahon. So, Zach, what are your thoughts on Pat McAfee? I think you're on board with us that we're all fans of the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he brings such a, you know, and I don't really like using this word, but it kind of just fits him perfectly. He brings such a swagger to that show that nobody else could. You know what I mean? So, I mean, his like he was saying, his podcast is unreal. Like, it's so fun. I watch it daily. You know what I mean? And plus, he's got a great football mind. I think that a lot of people are neglecting to realize that guy was in the NFL for a long time.
Correct.
Like, he was a great punter. He was a great kicker. Like, people forget about that because of the other shit that he's been doing since he left the NFL. They've completely, like, I guess, like, put that to the side. They're like, oh, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But no, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's a change in the guard for sure. I think my son is going to grow up to watch Pat McAfee the same way that I grew up watching Lee Corso. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
And I hope to God that that's the case because he'll be a lot better off than I was. So man, I think it's brilliant. Yeah, good job on ESPN's part.
That's a fact. And then also, I don't know if y'all ever listen. You know, when it's college football, the playoff, they have multiple. They have different broadcasts, and one of those broadcasts during the playoffs and the national championship game, one of the options was like the Pat McAfee stream, and it was him and the guys on his podcast, and they're just goofing off. They're also talking football. It's like more relatable. I think it's way more relatable for casual fans to have a Pat McAfee and those guys. Very similar like when Peyton and Eli do the Monday night football broadcast. Like my wife will watch that more than she'll watch Straight Line, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. Like she's bored watching them, but having Peyton make a joke on Eli, she's like locked in on that kind of stuff. So
they have good dry humor too. They have good dry humor.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
You're not a All right, so next topic. We're gonna talk about surprise teams for this upcoming season. One thing about this podcast, folks, we're going to be making predictions. We're going to be stepping out and standing beside our predictions. I'm going to be putting out predictions weekly, and you can hold me accountable to it. So we're going to do this by discussing a potential surprise team for this upcoming season. Last year's surprise team, obviously, it was TCU. No one picked them to win the Big 12. No one. They were, I want to say, Vegas odds had them second or third to last in preseason options of picking or winning the Big 12. They didn't win the Big 12, by the way. It was Kansas State, but the one game they lost was the Big 12 championship. They upset Michigan, a monumental upset by their program standards. And we don't have to talk about the national championship game where they got smoked to whatever.
It was a long bus ride, okay?
Yeah, they definitely got packed up.
Those coaches will never show that game tape ever again. And rightfully so. It's understandable. 2 years ago, the surprise team was Cincinnati. Cincinnati was not a Power 5 team at the time. Now they are in the Big 12 this year, but they weren't a Power 5 team. They weren't a Big 5 team, and they not only went undefeated, but they made it to the college football playoff. So that was a huge surprise.
Yep.
And I don't know about you guys, but I want to know, like, do you think? And I'll start with you, Brad. Do you think that this season we're going to see a monumental surprise team like the past two seasons?
I'll be honest with you. I don't, but I can give you a team I think is going to be there.
Okay.
Again, now this just being me, a lot of preseason is predicting, your Georgias, your Bamas, Michigan, Ohio State. Of course, they have us in the mix as well. Again, that all depends on what Alex Grinch and that defense decides to do at SC. But I can give you a dark horse team that may actually mess up the whole matrix, and that could be Penn State. Penn State has a very good roster. They have a lot of returns, a very good secondary, great running backs. And, I mean, it's the Big Ten. Who knows? Big Ten basically comes down to a few games. Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and that's essentially it. Now, if Penn State can go and take care of business against a Michigan and Ohio State, I could see that happening. They have a really, really good underrated team. So, I mean, there's my prediction right there. So,
Okay.
But other than that, I don't think we're gonna get anyone outside of the top teams. Georgia's coming back with too much talent. Michigan is coming back with too much talent. Ohio State is coming back with too much talent. Alabama is coming back with talent. Caleb Williams is back, and we've bolstered that defense. We got a lot of great people out of the transfer portal. It's just a lot of great teams that's returning a lot of great players. So I don't know. I don't see it.
All right, I'm gonna push back on you because you're my brother, and we
Okay, that's fair.
podcast weekly on All Marks Pod.
Okay.
I want to give me a surprise team. Like Penn State is
Okay.
a top 10 ranked team. So
Okay.
I want to push back. I want you to shoot your shot. I want you to tell me some
They're
team that
They're a top 10 ranked team.
yeah that
Okay, I don't know where this team ranked, but everybody's talking about him as a Heisman dark horse.
okay
Washington with Michael Penix Jr.
okay.
They can make some noise.
I like that.
But in order to do so, they would have to beat us.
Yes.
That's why I didn't want to say them. But, but I mean, everybody loves the kid. His stock is going up, and he can throw it, man. He can toss the pill for sure.
Penix he's nice, man. He's nice. I watched him all last year, and it's a complete difference because he was at Indiana the season before, and he stunk up the joint. Like, the whole team sucked, but he definitely stunk it up. And he goes to Washington, so at the beginning, I'm like, all right, that's a change of pace, whatever.
Right.
But dude was throwing it everywhere. And he beat teams. He beat Texas in that bowl game. Like, that's a talented team coming in this year. Yeah. I continue to say it. Pac-12 is going to be must-see TV all season for me.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And one of the things is this: for the Pac-12 this year, all it takes is somebody to run the table. If we can get one undefeated team out there, we're in the playoffs. They were pushing for it with SC, even with the one Utah lost, but we lost the Pac-12 championship. But my money's on SC. But if Pac-12 get an undefeated team out of the conference, they're shooing for that number 4 slot, I think.
Okay. Zach, who's your surprise team, man?
I was on the same train as Brad over there. To be honest with you, I didn't really see anybody coming out of the woodwork and being like, "Bam, success." Utah was my team. To be completely honest, I think Cameron Rising is just a star. I think he's one of those players that if you don't have that kid on your team, you don't really have a team. Yeah, I hate it. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a USC fan before we started this podcast. But I think again they're coming back with a lot of talent onto that team, and I think after winning last year and really getting themselves up the rankings, I think that's one of the teams that I'm most looking forward to. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're going to say the same thing to me that you said to Bradley, if you're going to give me any kind of pushback,
you know that.
I'm going to say us. To be completely honest with you, man, I think our schedule is permitting. I think we have all of our major games at home this year. We play y'all at home. We play Bama at home. We play LSU at home. I think Jordan Hare is a hell of a place to play for a lot of these SEC teams. And I think that with Robbie being fully in for a year on how we're going to start running the offense and everything like that, I think he's a dynamic enough player to get us to where we need to be in the SEC. I mean, we'll find out come week 5, I think, is when our first real test is.
Was it A&M?
It's A&M, yep. So we'll see. But A&M lost a lot, but we lost a lot too. But I think our defense is big enough to come out there and be kind of scary to a lot of those teams, at least secondary and linebacker wise. I think we'll cut off that middle of the field well enough to scare a lot of offenses. And plus, I don't really like the guy per se, but Hugh Freeze is a great coach. We've seen what he's capable of doing. We know what he's capable of in the SEC. He's one of the only coaches to ever beat Nick Saban multiple times. Yep. So I mean, we're right there in the pack. I feel like we can actually do it this year. A lot of young talent, a lot of speed.
Do you think Robbie is your quarterback? Because I know y'all got Peyton Thorne from Michigan State.
We did get Peyton Thorne. I do think we rock with Robbie. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't, right? If we didn't give him that shot to actually get in there and show us what he's capable of doing. If by the middle of the year it's not that way, then we'll know and we'll pull him. You know what I mean? But at that point, if we end up doing that, we don't have a shot to win the SEC anyway. if we're pulling quarterbacks. But yeah, I think we give it to Robbie for sure.
Okay, I like that. All right, my surprise team. I'm shooting my shot, gentlemen.
Let's hear it.
Tulane.
Oh,
Tulane was a train last year, and they returned a lot of talent. Their star running back, he's gone, but their quarterback's back. I looked at their schedule. Their schedule is beyond manageable.
they got good DBs down there too. They got some good DBs at Tulane. I know firsthand. They got some good DBs.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm gonna say if Tulane goes undefeated, there's an outside shot. I don't know how. I don't know. They're gonna have to become like a media darling to get into the playoff. But if they're undefeated, add them as a sacrificial lamb. Number 4. Add them as a sacrificial lamb.
Here's my thing about Tulane that I'm not gonna like if they go undefeated and they get there. It's gonna be. It all started with the win versus USC.
Oh yeah, that's
blah,
gonna be
blah,
the
blah,
narrative.
blah, blah, blah. That's gonna be the narrative. They're gonna ride it. Pause. And I mean, you know, they're a very talented team, man. They're a very talented team. They did lose their star running back, but they have some great pieces in the secondary coming back. Some good players coming back. So that's not a bad pick. I just don't want to see them be successful, but that's not a bad pick.
I think it's one of those picks like a couple years ago when UAB was really getting into it. You know what I mean? Like they were rolling really hard and they were playing really, really well, and then like towards the end of the season they kind of tail off. I can see that from Tulane being one of those people that are on College Game Day, be like, let's go to a fucking Tulane game. They're on fire, and then they'll start playing people. I don't think they'll beat USC, right? I think they could put up a game against USC, and people will still be like, damn, Tulane is real, because then they'll win the next 4 or 5 games. And people are like, okay, they're a real team. So I think that's a sneaky little pick. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, that's a solid pick.
Yeah, that's what I got. All right, so this has grown to be a tradition in our monthly roundtables where we talk about Coach Prime and those Colorado Buffaloes, another Pac-12 team. This podcast is basically a Pac-12 podcast, if you haven't noticed listening. But it's all good because the homie Brad is here, and we got to put on for the West Coast.
But we are going to be going to the Big Ten. I got to get a USC jersey with the Big Ten. We headed to the Big Ten.
Yeah. True that. All right, so Colorado Buffaloes, gentlemen. I want to know, starting with you, Zach, what are your thoughts on Coach Prime? What are your thoughts on what he's currently doing? Because before you go, it's one of, if not the biggest, in my opinion, it's definitely one of the biggest social experiments ever in college football, where you turn over that roster. So what are your thoughts on Coach Prime and what he's doing thus far in Colorado?
I think a lot of people are like, I can understand where there's some doubt coming, right? But we've seen what he's capable of doing with these kids. We've watched it firsthand last year. You know what I mean? Like, it may not have been in a Big 5 school, but I mean, it was impressive to say the least. Like, he got those kids where they needed to be, and the fact that he brought them all with him, we know what he's capable of with that team. So the fact that we're even having a conversation of doubt when it comes to Colorado being at least a team that's talked about this season, and not for the social experiment way, it was for the way they're playing ball, I think that's wild. You know, Coach is he's a great coach. I mean, we've seen it happen. He's won championships already. You know what I mean? So we can't really knock him for that. I think the transfer thing got a little out of hand. I think a lot of people kind of got like, oh, okay, you're just bringing the entire team with you. But I mean, if they want to go, they want to go. Nobody made those kids do that. You know what I mean? So they wanted to be with Coach because they have a lot of faith in what he's capable of doing. And at a Big 5 school, that gives them a lot of press. That gives them a lot of availability to a lot of eyes that need to see it. You know? So, yeah, man, I think they're going to be a really good team. I think that's such a stacked conference, though, that it's just hard for them to kind of skyrocket to where they need to be. You know?
It's going to definitely be a tough hill to climb for sure. Brad, man, he's going to be playing against your team. I want to say week 3 or week 4 y'all are actually going to Colorado. So what are your thoughts on Coach Prime?
I think first off, Deion Sanders is one of my favorite players all time. That's
Absolutely.
number one. Number two, I think he brings a lot of excitement to the game. I think he brings, excuse me, not to the game, but to the coaching aspect of the game. I think he has carved out a lane to where we are going to see more NFL players, former players getting those jobs and moving up and getting the head coach position. As far as Colorado, the team, I think they're going to be very competitive this year. I took a look at their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Only losses I give them is TCU, Oregon, USC, Utah. I think they're very capable of winning 8 games right off the bat.
Okay.
If I had to say out of those 4 teams which one they'd upset, I say TCU, just because I don't know what their roster is going to be looking like. They lost a lot as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I see them winning 8 games off the rip. They got some 5-star talent that they brought over with them. And, you know, a lot of people complained about Dion, but Lincoln Riley did the same thing. And I'm glad about it, right? We got Caleb Williams over there. We got Mario Williams over there. We brought over Mekhi Blackman. We brought over some players that he recruited, and then they went to other schools, and now they spun the block and they came back to Lincoln. So Lincoln Riley did the same thing. He brought his people with him, and so did Deion Sanders. I'm all for it, man. It adds a new excitement to the game, and Colorado was one of those teams, and hopefully they can get back there. I don't think
Back
they're
in the
moving.
90s.
Yeah. I don't think they're moving to the Big Ten, so they have room to stand on the top of the mountain as the Pac-12 wants. UCLA is leaving, USC is leaving, Oregon I think is leaving, so they have room. They have room, so I'm excited, man. I think they get 8 games this season, a possible 9-3 if they can knock off TCU early.
Okay. See, that's one thing I can definitely say about all of our guests, including myself. We're all over the board about our predictions about how Colorado is going to end up. And that's the cool thing about it, because we honestly don't know what the hell team is going to be marched out there against TCU in that opener. Like, they could be one of the best teams in the country, or they could be chocolate and doo-doo. We don't know. We don't fucking know, but that's the beauty of it. So, since you've already shot your shot, you said 8 games. Zach, where are you at? How many games will Colorado win?
Me and Brad got to get on more podcasts together because we got pretty much the same brain, man. I had them 8-4 for sure.
Okay.
9-3 with a potential upset against TCU. I think that first game is going to be heavy for Dion. I think he's going to come out firing on all cylinders, and I think they do take that game. So I'd put him more on the. If you made me bet money, I'd go 9-3 over 8-4, but I think 8-4 is a comfortable line to sit at and kind of gamble with. But yeah, I think they're going to be a super competitive team. I think they have the complete opportunity to win it early, like the first couple of years during that conference. I think they could actually take it. So
I like that. So I'm gonna go opposite on you guys. But before I do that, I want to say, like Brad just said, Coach Deion Sanders, growing up, one of my favorite players of all time. I remember playing what was it? NFL Gameday. Do you remember that PlayStation game that wasn't Madden? But
Yep.
I used to substitute Dion as my quarterback. And he was actually good at that shit. I could scramble with him and all of that. It was crazy. It was like Mike Vick before Mike Vick. But Coach Deion Sanders, definitely one of my favorite all-time greats. I want him to be so successful because, like y'all said, the gravity of what he's doing right now, he's a game changer. He's literally wrecking the system before our very eyes, and it's scaring a lot of people. And me, I'm an anarchist at heart, so I love seeing that kind of shit. But looking at that schedule, we've already said Pac-12 is very tough, very challenging. He has some challenging games ahead of him. I got him at 5 games. I got him winning 5 games this year.
Ooh.
I got him winning 5 games, and honestly, I was at 4 games first, but I gave him 1 game because I started to look more into that roster, more into what they're doing. I want them to prove me wrong. I hope Coach Prime and Colorado proved me wrong because I just love seeing all of these people shook up because of what the hell he's doing. So both of you guys got him at 8-4. I got him at 5-7. So Coach Prime, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong.
Now here's where he could go 7-5 and somebody sneak a game on him. Arizona State, they always play hard. They always play tough. So that could be a game that, Arizona State pulls out and they beat Colorado. They're tough, man. They got a lot of good kids out in Arizona State, talent-wise. So that could be a game they drop 2, which would put them at 7-5. But I'm still gonna stick with my 8-4. I think Deion can get 8 games right off the rip.
I like that. And their freshman quarterback, I don't know if you know Jaden Rashada, he was supposed to go to Florida, but the NIL collective didn't come up with the check, and he was like, all right, man, I'm out. I'm going back to the West Coast. So
yeah, man, good for those kids.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, what are y'all thoughts on NIL?
I mean, who are we talking? Who wants to go first?
You go first.
It's incredible. These kids deserve to get paid. You know what I mean? They put their bodies on the line for these schools. And it's not like the NFL where you're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to do a job. You're playing because you have heart. You're playing because you love the game. You're playing because you have tried and true colors for your school, and you're out there busting your ass for it. These kids deserve to get money, man. Absolutely. And for their name and likeness, anybody else would do this shit. You know what I mean? They'd pay anybody else for that shit. Why not these kids? I think it's long overdue. Long overdue.
I feel that. Brad, what are your thoughts, man?
Oh, I mean, I'm with it 100%. Like Zach just said, it's long overdue. I mean, look at the ramifications at USC. We lost a Heisman. We had to vacate a national championship because of the situation with Reggie Bush. But, I mean, it's criminal that you have a Reggie Bush on your campus. He's bringing in millions of dollars every Saturday, and the kid can't get a free burger. The kid can't get a car endorsement. The kid can't go sign autographs and be compensated for it. So I'm totally for it. Athletics make money hand over fist, and they need to start compensating these kids. And just like with the video game, those video games make millions upon millions. Pay these kids so they can take care of their family, and also this gives a lot of the recruits and up-and-coming athletes something more to strive for, right? Not just being 5-star, not just going D1, but getting their business together early in terms of you're a $100,000 athlete. You're a $1 million athlete. That's something to really strive for coming out of high school. So I'm with it. It's great. I love to see it. If the kid's a great kid and he's a great talent, put him on some commercials. Have him at my local, whatever, signing autographs. I'm with it for sure.
Or do you see any negatives with NIL?
Yeah, I mean, the only negative I see with the NIL is, and this is not just with kids, but this is just with anybody. You give anybody a certain amount of money that never had that money or don't know how to manage that money well, then, of course, it could be some drama. It can be some mismanagement. Of course, you're going to get people around you who want to use you and different things of that nature. Like the kids, man, I'm seeing these kids go out to California and they're in downtown penthouses, Corvettes. It's legal.
I'm going to put a clip of Barrett Alexander's apartment right now.
The best of the best in Athens to the best of the best in LA. The only thing is just money mismanagement. That's not just a kid thing. That's a human thing. So that would be something I would say in regards to a cautionary tale on the NIL.
Zach, what are your thoughts? Are there any negatives with NIL, at least in your opinion?
It's more of a old school mentality way of thinking. I think it kids are trying harder for a different reason now than kids were trying back then. Getting into the league means something completely different these days than it did back in the day. I think so. They don't really have that mindset of fucking hustle, and get there. We got to get there because they're getting paid now, which again they absolutely fucking deserve it. But going into the NFL, they're going to be more. How do I put this? Eli Manning-ish come draft time, where they're like, I don't want to play there, and then they're going to fucking bitch and complain and be like, I already have money. I can wait the money out. And so I want to be on a certain team. So I think that's that's what we're going to start seeing probably in the next like 5-10 years probably, is kids just being like, nah, I'm good, man. I'll just sit here on the fucking million and I just got paid for McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see the first player that just like bucks on the NFL. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I've already made multi-millions in college football. Y'all aren't offering me enough, or the team that drafted me, I'm like, screw you guys. So that's a very good point. My concern with NIL, at least negatives, would be regulation. It's like not level playing fields with certain states. Now, my state is one of those that can benefit from NIL, honestly. It's not that many regulations. But when you go across the state line to South Carolina, they don't have certain they have more provisions or more things in the way of them being able to just say, hey, we're paying you up. What's up? Come be a Gamecock. You know what I'm saying? So me as a fan, I don't want it just to be the same 4 or 5 teams at the top of college football, even though I am speaking from a place of privilege being one of those teams currently. But
definitely.
Yeah. I want more teams to be able to go ahead and get some talent and bring a little bit more parity into the sport, because like I said, I can understand a fan on the West Coast being annoyed with Georgia and Alabama making the playoff, or Georgia and Auburn, or Alabama Auburn making 2 of 4 spots. Like, that shit kind of does suck if you're not represented. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, let's say what it is though. The play is representing it as well. We had our opportunity. SC had their opportunity. We had our opportunity to get there. Even with one loss, we still had our opportunity. So it really boils down to the play. And I think, now if they would have put Alabama in the playoffs, I would have called foul. But I think they've been doing the right thing as far as, like you said, they put a Cincinnati in. They put a TCU in. Even though they got blew out, they earned it. So they're there.
That's true. That's a good point. And, you know, the debate for the 14 playoff, we can only do that for another year, because once it goes to the 12-team playoff, then it's a lot more teams in that, guy. So
we're having a lot of fun when that happens.
Oh yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Quickly before we end it off, since we are talking about 12-team playoff, to 3 SEC teams being in the playoff, dominating the field of 12, and it's basically, long story short, we're just delaying the inevitable of 2 SEC teams in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. Zach, you got this. You started off.
Yeah, I mean, they could expand it all they want. It comes down to talent, right? And at this point in time, and for the last probably 10 years, the SEC has the talent, right? So you can't get mad at us for all of us being good. Yeah. Because it's not like, I mean, we have a couple of teams, you know what I mean, that aren't the best in the world, and we'll see what happens when Texas and Oklahoma come in.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, you can make it as big as you want, but I mean, if you're not playing as well as us, then you can't get mad at us for always being at the top. Like, you can't. We're doing the same thing y'all are doing, just at a higher level. So if you want to be where we're at, be better. That's like as simple as I can put it. Is just be better.
It just seems like the field of 12 is going to quickly turn into SEC versus Big Ten.
100%.
Because you got USC and UCLA come to the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Like, once you got USC, Michigan, Ohio State, you got the same problem over there than what you would argue down in the South. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And if it keeps going in that direction, if it keeps being just those 6 teams that's constantly going at it, they're going to be like, oh, we need a 20-man playoff. Oh,
where does it stop?
Right. Where does it end? Right. So I think I'm an advocate for the 12-man. I think they should have done 8. I think that would have been a little better. Ride that out for like 2 years, the same way we rode out 4. Ride out the 8 and then see how that works. And if it's still as shitty as the 4, then move to 12. But I think we're going to be in the same position, at least for the next decade, of 10 teams in the country still being on top of the game. And it's just going to continue to be that way. So, I mean.
Brad, what you think, bro?
I agree. I thought 12 teams was too much. I was down for 6. I was down for 8. I think 12 is a little excessive. And I'm always under the mindset of everybody has their opportunity. You come out, you play, you win your games, and then see where you get. Now, if you're winning and you're not getting nowhere, then that's where we have a legit complaint. But when we're talking SEC, remember, Ohio State almost came back and upset Georgia. They missed the field goal, you know? So it's not like the players aren't out there and the players aren't willing to work. It's about having the teams ready and having your teams prepared to be champions. Yeah, there's some talent levels, but again, this is on the individual kid. Am I going to make the most of my opportunity? If so, how am I going to do that? Look at a Sauce Gardner, right? He was phenomenal at Cincinnati, and it paid dividends for the program and him as an individual as well. Look at Max Dugan. Look at some of these, Quentin Johnson, all of these kids. Making the most of your opportunity where you're at. And when you do that, then you put the committees in a tough spot, you put the media in a tough spot, and overall you have the fans say, hey, this team deserves to be there. They beat so-and-so, they're undefeated, they deserve to be there. So I feel like if you just win and do what you're supposed to do, everything will take care of itself. I don't think the SEC is invincible. I just think a lot of teams come and they actually just play soft or be intimidated when they play against it. I was looking for it. I wanted Caleb Williams to take that matchup so I can be like, yo, this is what he can do. You know what I mean? So it's just about, taking advantage of the opportunities you have. You win, you're in. That's always been the moniker. So just win, you get in. And it's as simple as that. And if people feel like there's a drop in talent, you always got to remember 5 stars are overrated, 2 stars are underrated. So it's just all about what you want to put in, right? We had Joe McKnight, and Joe McKnight was supposed to be like the greatest running back.
The next Reggie Bush, yeah.
Exactly. And he didn't pan out to be that. You know what I mean? We had Aaron Court. We had a bunch of guys that were supposed to be the next so-and-so and the greatest so-and-so that didn't pan out. So it's just about taking advantage of that opportunity. And I hope that all the coaches and the players and the teams look at it from that perspective instead of making this an argument about conferences and talent and different things of that nature.
That's a good point. And I definitely agree with you on that. All right, well, lastly, I'm going to go off the cuff since all 3 of us are pro wrestling fans. I want to know, gentlemen, who is the greatest former college football player to become a professional wrestler? Zach.
Man, that's so hard because there's a lot out there, man. There really was. Baron fucking Corbin. Let's go. Just kidding. I think I'd be pretty stupid to not say Goldberg, right? Like, I think that'd be pretty dumb, right? Just when it comes to magnitude and his capabilities and his longevity and what he's still capable of. Yeah, I think it'd be dumb to not say Goldberg. Yeah,
I feel that. I like that. What you got, Brad?
You know what I want to say. I got to go with our tribal chief here. I got to go with Roman Reigns. Right?
Nice.
Now Goldberg is in that top 5. I have Goldberg there, Vader there, The Rock, of course, and even Brock Lesnar too, but I got to go with Roman Reigns right now. He great college football player. good college football player, rather. I don't want to say great, but good college football player. And he translated well to wrestling. He's on top of wrestling right now. So I'm going to go with the obvious Roman Reigns with that one.
I like both of you all's answers. And Zach, since you took my answer, I'm going to go with Slick Ric Flair. Although I don't know if he actually played college football because Ric Flair be lying, man. He claims that he played college football, but Ric Flair be lying his ass off, man.
Where did he say he played at? Because I've never heard of it.
I want to say
he
said Minnesota or something.
Yes, he did. He did say he played for Minnesota in the documentary.
Yeah,
I seen that too. I
don't know.
He was fullback, right? I think he was a fullback or something.
Man, he full of shit. Nah, I don't know if he played, but he said he did. So, hey, my vote is Ric Flair.
For the greatest of all time.
Exactly. All right, gentlemen. Wonderful podcast. I really appreciate y'all coming to the podcast and talking college football with me. But shout out to the people. And, Zach, let them know where they can find you online.
I am on Instagram at Zach_H with about 15 of them H's. I'm also starting my own fantasy football podcast. We're going to start shooting here in about the next couple of weeks. It's going to be the Triple Option Podcast.
Nice.
You can find that on Spotify. You can find it on Apple. You can find that just about anywhere podcasts drop. Yeah, we're getting heavy into that. I'd love to have both of y'all on, by the way. That'd be great.
Oh, man. I love it. I love fantasy. I love it.
Yeah. So, that's where you can find me.
Nice. Brad, let the people know where they can find you, man.
You can find me Facebook, Bradley Young Jr. Also, you can find me on Instagram at TheSavageFigs _, and the number 2. Number 2, we had a lot of great USC players were the number 2. Deion Sanders wore the number 2. A lot of my favorite players wore 24, which is 2 and 4. So, TheSavageFigs _2 on Instagram, Bradley Young Jr. on Facebook. Again, when the season kick off, I'm deadline straight. Football, fantasy, NFL, that's it. If there's if there's a good boxing match in between that time, cool, UFC, whatever. But man, football.
Nice. And of course, you can catch Brad and myself as we're one half of We're All Marks Anyways podcast, pro wrestling podcast. We drop weekly on Thursdays on all podcast platforms. Folks, thank you again for listening. Be sure to follow us at Suplex Dinner Club. Shout out to some international listeners. I have looked and seen that we have a listener in Switzerland now. We have a listener in Italy. I don't know who the hell you are, but you probably know me. But shout out to you. And, of course, shout out to the people. Shout out to you guys listening and giving your love and support. Please share the podcast to your friends and family and on social media, because we are trying to grow a community of conversation and thought and, some jokes here and there and some fun and love here and there as well. So every Monday we drop Dogs versus All Y'all. We talk college football. Wednesdays is cool conversations with some really interesting people within the hospitality industry on the Life and Times podcast. So shout out to the people. Thank you again to my guests tonight. Really appreciate y'all. I'm going to definitely have y'all on hopefully before kickoff so we can get some predictions going, so we can really show where our mental fortitudes are and all that good stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Hopefully put some people on some money. And listeners, have a wonderful week. And as always, go Dogs.
Fight on.
I'm editing that out. Them dogs is hell.
Your ass is prepared for this shit for fucking 365 days. I think about the fuckers in that locker room. Think about getting our opportunity. All the shit you went through this week to get ready for this game. Now is when you pay the fucking price. You go out there with energy, enthusiasm. Ain't nobody supposed to be cautious. Ain't nobody supposed to be nervous about shit. Go out here and fuck their ass up. Don't think about scoreboard. Don't think about shit. You think about knocking the shit out of them. Did you hear what Box said on Monday? fuck these guys up. You go play the right way. You play the right way. You knock their ass off. You stay off the fucking ground. You tackle the fucking man with the ball. The shit's easy. Look at the right shit. Punish their ass on offense and kick their ass on special teams, guys. It's about who the fuck we are. I believe in you. Let's go.